y'all did good. I'm glad that worked out for you all.
Yeah. The kids wouldn't have stopped, but someone puked in the slide.
Oh no! Summertime fun, man. Welcome back, everyone, to an almost perfect podcast that is made just all the more perfect today. Usually how this goes, I welcome everyone. I say, I'm John, and then I introduce Joseph, and I introduce Tom, and I ask those guys, how are you doing? How are you doing, Joseph, Tom?
Doing well.
Good.
Okay, we don't care today. We don't care because
I was gonna say, never been more excited about an episode.
Yes. Yes, this is, I don't know what we call it. This is the spouse episode. This is like number 100 and I don't know, 57 or something of these that we've done. And this is probably the second one that my wife has listened to.
A few more in there.
And that's only because she's here that she'll listen.
No, she'll check it out afterwards. How did he edit it? And by the way, there's not much editing.
I don't know that I've ever officially edited anything. I've put stuff together, but when we go until we finish, that's what everybody gets. So be careful.
The truth is, to Gloria's credit and all the women here, they hear our voices just way too often. So.
And they go to our churches too. Can you believe that? All right, so here's what we do in case somebody's watching, listening, they don't know. We invited our spouses and they agreed to come on. We thought it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about ministry, pastoral ministry, but from a spouse's perspective. Now, and I don't want to assume that everybody knows who everybody is. So, fellas, let's introduce our spouse. I will go first. I'm John, and I'm here with Gloria. Her real name is Beautiful, but everybody else knows her as Gloria.
Thank you.
And I'm here with my wife Ellen, and she's one of the ones who's pressed. Let us know what's going to be asked. So I'm hoping we stick kind of to the script anyway this time.
I'll do my best, Ellen. I will do my best.
All right. I'm Joseph Tobias, and I'm here with my wife. Her full name is Injian Brabe, but she goes by Injian.
Very good. Well, welcome again, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. Your life will never be the same after this morning. That's
yours might not be, but ours will be.
Yours will be just fine. Okay. So before we get going, we like to sort of prime the pump, so to speak, about things going on in the world and ideas that are happening, just to kind of get us talking before we take a turn into what we really want to get to today. So real quickly, I believe, are everybody here coffee drinkers? No, not everybody's here.
I am, but no, I'm definitely not.
I know you are. 1 or 2 cups a day, at least, right?
Yeah, no more than 2, but at least 1.
Okay, all right. I like the way it smells, but I don't like it. So if anybody take a guess, how many to-go coffee cups get used around the world every year? Any guesses?
Every year?
Every year.
I don't know, but it's going to be depressing.
You're going to need more coffee.
Oh, way too many.
Throw out any number.
2 million.
2 million. Coffee cups globally?
2 billion.
2 billion. Anybody else?
Okay.
I'd say about a billion.
About a billion?
I go with over 2 billion.
Over 2 billion.
Yeah, probably.
What do you think? You're going to be surprised. It is over 2 billion. It's actually 500 billion.
Oh my goodness.
500 billion to-go coffee cups get used globally every year. I hope you all are happy with yourselves.
Really?
I like my coffee at home.
Use my own cup. So I learned that by reading this article. We're all probably familiar with the Audi cars, where there's a new model that they have kind of prototype, they're testing it out. It's the Audi Q7 Signature Edition. It's a limited run luxury SUV that comes equipped with, are you ready for this? A specialty mobile espresso system. Remember?
I was gonna say every coffee lover's eyes just got bigger.
Yes, give me that car. I
Mhm.
don't know if you remember back in the 80s when I was young in the 80s and like on the movies and TVs, like car phones, back when we called them car phones,
Yeah.
started becoming famous. And it was like, they have a phone in their
Yeah.
car, right? Yeah. And so this is kind of the same way. Maybe this is the start of something new. I would prefer a hot chocolate machine if we're going to do this,
Mm.
or a donut machine, whatever. Just, I don't need
Another thing to be distracted by driving and making coffee, right?
another thing to be distracted. Well, all our cars are becoming self-driving now, so
Mm.
Oh, that's true.
I guess
Still a little scary for me. I'm okay. I'd rather drive my own vehicle.
you gotta drive your own. My sister sent a text this morning. They bought a Tesla last night, and she said it drove them home from the dealership. So there it is, right? Yeah. So
Very cool.
Cool.
all right, so let's get into some of the stuff we really want to get into. And I have so many questions, but I'm gonna stick to the ones initially that we started with, and we'll go from there. We'll see how it goes, and we'll just kind of see where everything takes us today. But before we get some of those, let me just ask the ladies real quick, and you guys. We don't pick an order; we just kind of go with it. So whoever talks first, they win. And then, so what have you been up to lately? Not as a pastor's spouse, just as you. What have you been up to lately?
Go ahead, Nelly. You're always up to things.
No, I'm just doing my normal job as editing. And that's what I do during the day. I ride my bike, I edit.
How long have you been an editor?
I've been an editor since 2007,
Great.
however long that is.
Yeah.
Mm.
Any particular field, or how does that work for
I
editing?
mostly work for Guideposts in their fiction, not their fiction series.
Okay.
The cozy mysteries, romances, those kinds of things. They're series, they have mail order books, 24 in a series, and that's what I edit.
I see. So you do a lot of reading.
I do a lot of fiction reading, which
Lot of
means in my personal time, I read nonfiction because I
I
can't
guess.
stand any more fiction.
I'm done with it. Uh-huh. All right. Very good.
Did you also edit sermons?
No,
No,
do not. Not unless asked.
not until after
Not until
Afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I usually know what needed to be added.
All right. Good. Great. Very good.
I've been on vacation for a few weeks, so I've worked on some things that I wanted to get done. Had to work on getting my license renewed, so I was able to take time to do that. So I was able to renew my license, and then just kind of enjoying some time of not having to work. So it's been nice.
And we're actually going on vacation this week, like tomorrow. And then as soon as we get back, what do you got to do?
Go back to work.
Go to work the day after you get back from vacation. That should be illegal.
Or plan better.
Or plan
Yeah, but just come
Yeah,
home
no,
early.
no, I thought we had another week. So when we got the dates, I was like, oh no, oh my God. Okay. It's all right. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So we're talking to her boss right now. So on Monday, you see she's not really working. You know why.
I'll be working.
Yeah. And Jean, what have you been up to?
School.
What have you been studying?
I'm doing a master's in professional counseling right now, so I'm taking summer classes. That has been really, I don't know, brutal, I would say, because having the summer with the kids at home and having to do summer school has been a lot. But yeah.
Yeah. Imagine so. Those summer courses are brutal. They're just
Yeah.
so much and so little time.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
oh man. All right. And what year are you in?
I don't know. The semesters, it just depends on how many classes you take per semester. I would say I'm in my third year. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But you're
Yeah,
getting
but
it
I'm
done.
almost done though. I have like 10 more classes to go. So
Okay. Yeah. You're, as we say, you're rounding third. Very good. That's
yeah.
awesome. Good deal. All right. So then, ladies, let's jump into some of these questions we had. And again, we wanted, because this came about a couple weeks ago, we were talking about our topic was something to the effect of, as much as we joke about ministry and like, oh my God, ministry, there's a lot of joy in it. Like it's a lot of joyful work. It brings a lot of joy. And so, but we also thought it'd be helpful to think about ministry from the pastoral spouses. I keep using that term. Today they're all pastors' wives, but we know there are pastors' husbands too. And so so we think about pastor spouses. So we want to kind of get your perspective and see what that can add to our understanding, both as pastors ourselves, but even for our people who are listening in the churches that maybe never thought about these kinds of things and what it means for church life and ministry. So, what surprised you most by being married to a pastor?
That he became a pastor. That was a surprise. Well, he got me. He got me.
How did that work out for you, Gloria?
That's all I
God's got jokes. I heard that.
I think one thing that surprised me was if Tom was an insurance salesman or if he was a banker, his personal opinions and what he thought would not affect my friendships with my friends. Nobody cares if you are married to a banker. If I have a best friend, she doesn't care what he thinks about something. She only cares what I think about it. I quickly found out in being married to a pastor that what he says from the pulpit, what he says in a meeting, what he says here or there, determines whether this person will talk to me, whether they like me anymore. He can say something where all of a sudden a friend that I've had for 2 years that we talked every day, I suddenly will not talk to me anymore. And it's just, it was very surprising how people mesh the two of you together when maybe even what he thinks isn't what I think.
Oh,
But it
for
doesn't
sure,
make,
that's true.
yeah, but it doesn't make any difference. And
That's
and
great.
it can make someone that I trusted, all of a sudden it's not a friendship anymore. And that was very, very surprising to
Sure.
me.
Wow. Man, thought about that. Yeah. So the two opinions become one, and wow,
Yeah.
watch out, huh? That's interesting. Did anything surprise you?
Honestly, I don't know about surprise. Like when I saw the question, I was kind of thinking surprise. Because okay, I grew up in the church that we met with Joseph was a church that trained pastors. So I kind of like grew up around a lot of pastors and things. So I kind of had ideas about what pastors are like. So now I'm talking about the person as a pastor. So I kind of like grew up looking at them as people who are human beings, right? The fact that they're pastors doesn't mean that they're I know they have responsibilities, to lead and all that. But I look at them as people, as human beings too, who have their own needs. And so I was wondering, what perspective do I come at this question? Like, okay, what was surprising? I was asking myself, I said, are there any surprises? Well, I think maybe how isolating being, because the thing is, I didn't realize how lonely pastors, families, and spouses were until I became one. A lot of times people just imagine that you have all you need because you have the Lord and the Bible and you're around a church. So when it comes to friendships, like Tom's wife just mentioned, people distance themselves from you, not because they don't want to be friends with you, but because, I don't know, for some reason that I can't explain, they don't see it as something they can cultivate with you because you're the pastor's wife. So I'm talking about like people within the church you serve. They already put you in this place where you're like just the pastor's wife or the pastor's family. So that is definitely something that I learned by, living the life of a pastor's wife.
And that's something you don't really know until you're in that, right? And I think you kind of said the same thing, like, because Gloria's parents, all her parents were pastors, and so like, I mean, she knew pastors very well, right? And so like, what would surprise you about pastors? So yeah, she kind of had the same thing. All right. So kind of building on what you just said, what are some of the unspoken pressures or assumptions that people make about you? You. What are some of those unspoken pressures or assumptions that people make about you?
Oh, God.
Can I go first? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I think one of the assumptions they make is that you're the one that should pray at every meeting that you're at. You're the one that should open in prayer. You're the one that should pray for the food.
Uh-huh.
If your husband's not
if
there.
he's not there.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think, I don't know if you all have felt it, if a group of people are in a room talking and you walk in, all of a sudden the atmosphere changes because the pastor's wife is here. It's like, we have to now be different. They assume that you aren't a real person or something. You are more holy, or they need to act right around you or something.
Do they play in the background, God Save the Queen? Is that?
Hail it to the chief, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Very good. Any other assumptions or unspoken pressures?
I'm going to speak as a pastor's wife, but also as a pastor's kid. I think that for me, it was always perfection. There's always, growing up, it was an expectation of perfection. Like you could not mess up. And then as you became a pastor's wife, there was like, okay, you have to be a certain way. And so I think that's learning to be free of that takes years. And I think maturity at some point, right? But I think for a while, I think that was something that was a very heavy burden because none of us can really make everyone happy. And so I think that was difficult.
Yeah.
So a pastor's kid and a pastor's spouse carry this assumption of sense of perfection or
it's like
needing
you should
to
never
be.
get upset or,
I think
always
Jen has
say
a
the same
story.
thing.
Yeah, I think maybe it's not coming the one that someone saw you. I don't want to give out name. That said you're not dressing like so you may want to share it.
Yeah, I mean, they expect that you should sound a certain way, dress a certain way. Most especially, I don't know, I've been trying to see if that pressure exists within this context, but I think back in my context in Nigeria, it's a whole lot of pressure.
Yeah.
People expect you to wear a certain kind of clothing. And so I just met this person and I had just a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, you're not dressed like a pastor's wife." So in my mind, I was like, what is a pastor's wife supposed to put on? Like I was wearing clothes. It's not like I was not, but I mean, he just said that. And the thing is, yeah, so in my context, I know that even the way you dress is like, is you have to dress a certain way. And honestly, I don't know who made that criteria for the dressing, but then I mean it's just something that is there.
And don't put on red lipstick.
Well, no makeup.
Or there's a perfect balance, I guess, of how much you can wear. I don't wear red lipstick to church anymore, but that's a whole nother thing. But
Only if I've been drinking red Kool-Aid.
That's
Well,
right.
it's gotten a lot better because when we were in seminary, there was actually a professor who told the men in his class, when you're looking for a wife, you need someone who can play the piano and looks good on your arm. He actually told them that.
Wow.
Just
Hey,
things have gotten
That is
a
so
lot better.
precise.
can you play the
Hopefully,
piano
they're not
for
telling them that anymore.
Can somebody give Gloria piano lessons?
I'm lacking, y'all.
At least, but you know, my
Lacking.
ladies on call got half of it for sure. They look good on our arm if they get that close.
Lee, a professor, huh?
Yeah.
Well, and I would even say cultural expectations can be different as well because we came from, I was raised in a Hispanic, Spanish speaking conference. Majority, was bilingual, but a lot of the churches that we were a part of were Spanish speaking. And so there were certain expectations there. And when we moved to a different conference, um, you know, there was even, I know I grew up, you would call, pastor so and so, and then we moved to the other conference and they would call them by their first name and I'd be like, oh, you can't call pastor that. Like, oh my gosh, like I grew up, you had to call up like there's a, so it was learning that was also something that, so I think it's just having flexibility even, and just learning the culture of where you are and learning the people that you are with and saying, okay, I'm going to come just who I am. This is who, this is me. And you're going to get all of me. So here I am, so I may not fit in every little box, but that's okay. And I think it's, again, kind of learning to get to that point, which takes, for me, it took years because I did want to be, I wanted to make sure that I did everything that was needed. But we're not there anymore. So
So we talk a lot about, the pastor's wife, the pastor's spouse. I never hear anything about the mechanic's wife or the lawyer's spouse or the chef's, right? So talk a little bit about identity. Like, I have it here. How do you define your own identity apart from being the pastor's spouse?
Mm. Mm.
I would
I
say,
think
oh,
a
go ahead.
lot easy, I think it's a lot easier now in this day and age because we can have jobs. We don't have to just be the pastor's wife.
Hmm.
Mm.
And we were talking about this yesterday, and Ellen kind of surprised me at one of the places where her identity it was her identity, and that was when she became the church secretary at Asbury. And I'm going, that separated you? And anyway.
Well, it separated me because I had something else in that church I was doing, not being the pastor's wife.
Yeah,
Mm.
she did it well. So that was another thing that was helpful.
Gloria, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I think you mentioned it, being who we are outside of the church. So, professionally, or if we're being, we're students, to be able to cultivate that as well. And I feel like in whatever area we are in, we're still ministering and, we're still being a part of, um, bringing God's love to people in different ways. And so I know for me personally, I feel like through my profession, I'm able to serve God. And so that is separate from being a pastor's wife. A lot of times they do kind of come together because I do, tap into resources and things like that I know the church is always wanting to support and love on other people. And so I'm able to kind of tap into that and connect one to the other. But I think I'm able to still keep those separate. So for me, that helps. Like you said, having your own, and as a parent as well, being a parent separate from being a pastor's wife. So
Well,
Yeah.
for me, it's I think the way I was raised too, we weren't like our parents didn't really they didn't hit too much on people's what people like. I don't know. I'm trying to find the word. Your professional name, like okay, you're a pastor, a lawyer, like those are weren't the things that they were the emphasis that we had growing up. It was more of who are you as this person. And so for me, I early on I carved out my identity first as a person. I see myself as a person. I'm a woman first, and then I'm a wife, and then I'm a mother. So I've always had that concept of myself. And so as a woman, I think about the things that I dream about, the things I want to do. And one of them is pursuing becoming a counselor. And so I've always seen things like that. I think I learned kind of to compartmentalize it so that it's not so that I'm able to do the best that I can as a person, as a wife. So that's how I think about myself as in terms of my identity. Um, the truth is, the pastor's wife thing comes part as for me. I think it's part of just being a wife. I think about the fact that okay, I'm a wife, and then I'm also a pastor's wife. So it's not my identity wasn't built around just being a pastor's wife, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think that's healthy, right? Because then
Absolutely.
you hear stories, this people kind of get lost in that, and you guys were talking about the pressures and the expectations, and not only do you have to act a certain way, but you have to be everywhere and be everything to everybody. And one of the things that's always been important to me, and guys, I don't know if you can speak to this, but when I go to a new appointment, one of the things I try to make very clear is this is my position, right? Not hers, right? She's
Yeah.
not your pastor. Um, she's gonna have the same freedom and calling everybody else in the church has. And as somebody new coming into church, you're gonna give her time like you'd give anybody else time to figure out where she fits in. Do not expect that she's going to be like the extension of me. Don't think you're getting a 2-for-1 deal here, right? There's no coupon in this, right? So, and so that's been important for me because I had heard so many of those stories, from other people where the spouse just kind of just got consumed in that role, and I didn't think I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, John, just to add, I think it takes a lot of, understanding and in some ways courage to protect the spouses too, because, sometimes the pressure they're trying to put on your spouse, it comes through you, right? When people are expecting your wife to do certain ways or act a certain way, they come through the pastor sometimes. And if that covering and protection is not there from the pastor, like you said, letting the church know, right? If the pastor does not have a healthy outlook, it can subconsciously go and start pressuring the wife, to
Mhm.
act that role. Um, like growing up, like we're saying, the pressure is everywhere, but in Africa, mostly in Nigeria, next level, right? There've been times where even for myself, the pressure is so much that I think I've compromised. They expected her to be part of the women group, to be part of the women choir, to just to play so many roles that in many ways, there's a way they start thinking, oh, she's not meeting up to this, meeting up to that, you know. And church is just a big part of culture that every day of the week there's something going on. Right? They expect the pastor to be there, but also for the wife to be part of, regardless of what she's doing, to be part of all that. But part of what I try to do is to like be yourself, dress, look beautiful, be amazing. And all that was part of who we were. Many did not like it, some criticized like your spirituality is not, up to
Mhm.
the level that you should
Yeah.
have, things like that. But having that covering is very important.
Do y'all have to sit in certain places in the church?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Ooh.
Yeah. So kind of piggybacking on that a little bit, that sort of, relationship that we carry together. Ellen, you said something a while ago. You said when we were in seminary.
Uh-huh.
I love that, right?
yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about how
Well, just
pastoral, go ahead.
I want to make sure you understand. We met in seminary. She was a student there, so it wasn't, in case you're thinking when we went there, as because there are a lot of couples who arrived there.
Right,
But
right. No, but it's still a shared experience, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
We've
absolutely.
talked about that a lot, and she's always said, "Well, I should at least get like an honorary degree or something." Everything I had to put up with while you were there, right?
Exactly.
And there's a lot of ministry. As much as we put those boundaries up and said, and as much as we emphasize, and as much as we are our own people, all those things we've talked about so far, there still is, I think, at least it's been our experience, there still is this. There's this thing that we are doing together as well, right?
Oh yeah,
It is my pastoral ministry, but in kind of a secondary way, it's still our ministry that we're sharing together. So how has pastoral ministry shaped or challenged your relationship and your sense of a shared ministry together?
one of the things I want to say, kind of in tying into that, is and what we were just talking about is some of the pressure that was on Ellen as the pastor's wife came from me more earlier than later, because we were serving in a small church, and there are gaps in my skills, and there are say teaching is not my strength, and her degree is in Christian education, and they need someone to kind of organize that, and I'm looking to her to fill that need rather than just allowing that to be something that comes from the church itself. So I was putting pressure on her in certain areas that later, well, the clearest is when she was serving as church secretary, and she really enjoyed that. But there was this moment of realization uh, that her in that position coming at, if I'm gone, she's gone, and we didn't need to put those two things together on the church, and so we separated. That's when she went to full-time editing, which was the best thing because it was completely separate. But anyway, having said that, I'm done.
Having said that, I'm done. Good segue.
Having said what I wanted to say. Yeah.
I
Anything
think
else?
I think in the beginning, we've been doing this for 40 years, and in the beginning it was very different than it is now. And he did expect me to do more. He did expect me to be at every service. That's just what he thought should be. And now I say to him, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it that I'm there? And if it's very important to him, I'll go. And if it's not, I won't always go, because I don't have to be there just because I'm your wife. But we've grown a lot through that, and it hasn't been easy to grow through that, because there was a lot of pressure in the beginning. And although I did enjoy a lot of our ministry, there were things that I, because of my nature and because of my personality, it was hard for me to get over how people are. And maybe I don't want to be with those people right now, And he's more able to be with people he doesn't like than I am. So
She said it.
I said it. It's true.
That's hilarious. I love it. I love it. Anything else? Anything else? How has this ministry shaped your relationship or
Mm.
your or challenged even your relationship?
Well, I think we each are called to serve God, right? As a Christian, each of us. And so I think for me personally, it has just been something that I was able to find where God was calling me to serve in any, church that we were at. And so I was able to kind of work alongside that. And so for us, we work together with youth, and many of the churches that we've served, actually all the churches we've been a part of
Since before we were married.
since before we were married. So that's just somewhere that I have always felt called to serve. And so that's something that John would do. And so I think we were able to find those areas where, not only God was calling me to serve, but John was serving, that we were able to work together in ministry. And it wasn't so much just because I was the pastor's wife, I'm going to go help. It was because I felt, God was calling me to serve in this area. I had a passion for a certain area. And so I've been able to serve in those particular areas. So I think for that, I feel like it has also strengthened, ministry together, because we've been able to do things together and serve God together. And it hasn't been forced, or it hasn't been, anything that's been because of expectations. And I guess in that sense, since John didn't grow up in the church, and when he came into, his calling as well, he had been at church, but I think there was some growing that he was doing as well. So he didn't have certain expectations for me. He didn't know what it was, he kind of came with a clean slate. And so I'm the one who came with certain expectations as a pastor's kid, and, put those expectations on myself. And with him, he was just kind of like, okay, whatever, he wasn't going to push either way. I think he was just like, and so I thank God for that, that he's always been very supportive of, any area of ministry that I want to be a part of, or feel that, God's calling me to serve. He's always been supportive. And
Oh, you're welcome.
so all that to say, it can be beautiful, right? When we can serve together. It can also be frustrating at times, because we do come with different perspectives and just different ways of doing things. It can also be, so it's a compilation of all kinds of stuff together, but
Mm.
in all that, we can glorify God together in what we do.
Yeah.
Grateful for that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, I think before we got married, we were in ministry separately. So, I mean, the mindset of finding where God is calling me to serve is definitely something that has always been on my mind, and we've always kind of worked together too, as well. However, I think adding the component of like having children, and yeah, it has been
Say it. Yeah.
yeah. So that has been challenging. I mean, lately we've hardly been able to do
Mm.
a lot together, which is something that we've always done.
Mm.
But I mean, I look at you guys and I'm like, well, maybe down the line we would get back the time. But for now, we're just focused on like parenting, raising the family and things like that. So
Mm.
just knowing where we are in life, I think
Yeah.
keeps us grounded. We know what we can give and what we can't, and we just go with the flow.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, we're all in seasons, right? And those
Yeah.
seasons, as much as we're all different and everything else, our seasons still kind of follow a trajectory, right? And we kind of maneuver through that. So, in our closing minutes, again, going back to a few weeks ago when we were talking about, ministry isn't misery. Ministry isn't misery. That was our title. There's been a lot of joy I know I've experienced through. That I wouldn't probably have experienced the way I have because of pastoral ministry. So, can you think of a like meaningful moment uh, that God used in your ministry together at church through this pastoral ministry together? Can you think of, are there any meaningful moments that stand out to you?
Mm.
I think that one of them is a church back in Wisconsin that Tom and I had come from a church that did a missions conference and had faith promise offerings, promises and that kind of thing. And we introduced it to the church. And together we taught them what a missions conference was, and we got it together and taught them about faith promise and how to trust God for finances. And it was really special that we did that together.
And the thing I would say about that is, in fact, we did it in a couple of places, but it was a learning experience that where Ellen was teaching me about the concept of faith promise, and that lesson really stuck in our first church, because something just how God provided. Now, that's one of those story for a later time.
Okay.
Mm.
Any other meaningful moments?
I would refer back to something recent. So for us, for me personally, I think during John's illness, these last, few years, just, all these years, we've served together and been able to, pour into the life of the church, right? As God would call us to do, and our communities and everything. And when he was ill, just to see the way that God used our community of faith, churches that we had served so many years ago, that could just come back and just pour love into us through this time. Because all these years, we're constantly we give, right? Part of who we are. We're constantly loving on people and serving. And so I think that's a big part of who we are. But during that season, we received a lot as well. And we were reminded by God just how powerful the presence of another person can be, through prayer, through phone calls, through text messages, sometimes, meals, just all these different things. I mean, I know when we were in Houston at first, and, I can remember you all had sent, a meal to us when we had started our journey there at MD Anderson. And then, Tom, you went to go visit us. When he was that sick, and, I always try to remind myself of that. If I get frustrated, I'm like, okay, remember he's in. But even when he was that sick, that, and I didn't know, apparently he sent out a text, come see Gloria.
Mm.
And that you all were able to go back, to be that loving presence. Very.
Amen. Amen.
Mm.
And Jenny, anything you can share? Anything
Actually,
stands out to you?
I've been thinking, I'm like, what? Well, I know there are many moments, but sometimes I have trouble like singling out,
Sure.
experiences. I'll say, I mean, mine is also recent. The fact that one of the churches was like, it was almost like everything looked like it was about to close, and it was all about, the finances and everything, and just the fact that nobody saw a future, in the church. And I remember just saying, I really pray that God comes through for this situation. Like God is gonna defend his church. It's his church. And I remember really, saying to Joseph that we just need to trust God that he is able to come through in this situation. And I can say that God did. And it's been a wonderful testament of just how God will always come through for his name,
Amen.
It's just for us to stand still and see him do it, So those are heartwarming moments when I think about it.
Amen. Amen. Amen and amen. All right, so that was great stuff, ladies. I think that's helpful things for us all. One of the guys made a comment when we sent out the questions. They were like, "Yeah, I want to know the answer to that question too, right?" And I think it's also helpful as we've kind of talked about, how things have changed in the church, over the course of the years. Knowing some of this about pastor spouses can maybe help. We can help other pastor spouses that are coming, and that it can be easier for them to find their place and to be a part of the ministry of whatever church they get sent to. All right, gentlemen, we're gonna leave off with you guys. Give us one thing you'll tell your spouse about ministry together, and we'll end with that. Joseph, you want to go first?
Yes. I'm just thinking of how hard it's been and how difficult, but for in Jen being there, it's just been strengthening, and very encouraging to have your spouse. And, I just, I'm thinking of the number of times she has had to uproot herself, because I'm feeling like I'm being planted somewhere else. And we have conversations, but sometimes it's so easy to think of my own place and what I want to do, and expect support, right? Without really thinking of all the hard difficulty that and the things she's constantly having to let go, and the people she's having to bear with because of me, and things like that, and endure that she doesn't have to endure, but because she's, with me in this work. So thank you for going through all of those moments and difficulty and having many children to raise at the same time.
Amen. Amen. Tom, what would you say?
I'm going to look at Ellen there, even though she's sitting right here.
That's what I've been doing, Gloria.
But there's two things specifically that come to my mind. And number one is how we created a home that invited others into our home, and you were a part of that. And I think of both in Eau Claire and in Turtle Lake specifically, those moments when we had young people in our home and just enjoyed doing that type of ministry with you. And then the other thing is simply, you're the only one in the world who's witnessed all that God has done the last 42 years. And you've been there as a part of the story, as a witness to the story, as a person who's made a difference in the story. And I'm just grateful to you and to God for what we've been through and the experiences we've had.
Amen. Amen. And that's all for our show today, everybody.
No, John.
Gloria talks. She's always said before that when she was, ready to settle down, that kind of stuff. She was looking, having grown up in the church and all that stuff. She was looking for somebody who was furthest away from the church, and she chose me.
Okay, Christian, but not to be a pastor. Okay. I wanted him to love God, but not to be, going.
So it wasn't.
I wasn't even Christian then.
Leather wearing.
Yeah. But and I'm grateful that God put us together when we were just kids, and to see how I think of one time in particular, one of our homes, somebody from the church came over, and I remember he walked in, he took off his shoes and just plopped himself on the couch, crossed his legs, and just made himself so comfortable. And I remember thinking, we made this guy feel like he is at home. And I feel like that's something that we have done together, as a home, as a family, but also as a ministry, that people see us together, and that's something that God has done. And so I'm grateful that God put us together that way. I'm grateful for how you are willing to let God use you. I'm grateful for all the last minute runs to the dollar store you've done for me for youth group, because I forget to plan stuff and you go buy it all for me right before youth group starts, all that stuff. I'm grateful for all the ways that we've been able to be a part of ministry together. And as we go through a new season ourselves, soon to be empty nesters, I'm looking forward to what that's going to look like for us. So, amen and amen. All right, that's it, ladies. Thank you so much. That was beneficial. That was a blessing for me to hear.
Yeah.
I hope everyone else, when they hear it, it'll be special for them as well. So, again, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in every week. Thanks for being a part of the family. Thanks for being nice to the pastor's spouses. If you're not being nice, don't make us come get you, because we will. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you the next time we see you. Have a great rest of the week, and God be with you.
Yeah.
Don't crowd me out. I'm not used to this, Gloria. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.